We're going to get started. Welcome everyone to week 8 of the Spring 2021 Career Speaker Series. The Career Speaker Series is sponsored by the College of Marin, the Marin County Office of Education, and the Workforce Alliance of the North Bay. The Career Speaker Series will be held from 4 to 5 p.m. on Wednesdays through May 5th. Today's program will cover the topics of media, television, running a nonprofit, and jobs in the maritime industry. To get us started, I'm going to do a quick round of introductions. My name is Sita Williams, and I work for the Workforce Alliance of the North Bay. Also today we have here co-moderating Alex Jones from the College of Marin. One of our speakers today is Pam Haessly, Executive Director from Novato Community Television. We also have Justin Russell, Production Coordinator from Novato Community Television, and Jessica Sotuyo from the California State University Maritime Academy. We are going to record this webinar. So why are we offering a career speaker series? Well, first of all, we'd like to expose you to some of our local professional experts. Thank you all experts for coming today to talk to our participants. We'd like to introduce you to jobs that you might not have heard about before, and we'd like to help you to make informed decisions about the next steps on your career path. So what to expect today? Today's presentation hour will include an introduction, like we're doing right now, speaker presentations, and then question and answer time. Please use the chat function of the webinar to ask your questions. If you haven't registered for all 10 webinars in this speaker series, please use the main registration link. I'll make sure to put that in the chat. And finally, if you have any question or comments after the webinar, or you'd like to connect with one of our speakers, please let me or Alex know. Thanks so much. And so with that, I'm going to stop my share. And I'm going to hand the mic over to Pam and Justin.
Okay, I believe I'm live, yes. Hi, I'm Pam Haessly, Executive Director of Novato Community Television. I guess, where do I start? What is our profession? We're in the media industry, but we're unique in several different ways. And first and foremost, I want to point out and emphasize that, yes, we are a TV station, but we are also a nonprofit organization. So fundamentally and foundationally, that's what we are. So there's at least 6,000 different types of nonprofit organizations in Marin County alone, and we are one of them. And the unique thing about a nonprofit is that we are not, nonprofits aren't there to make a profit. All nonprofits have a mission, and everything that one does in the organization supports that mission. And our mission is to, and I do have to read it, to empower local voices to create, inform, and entertain through the use of innovative media. So we are Novato Community Television, NCTV. We incorporated 20 years ago. This is our 20th anniversary. So we're going to hopefully be celebrating that in person here in the studio, I hope, in October. So we invite you to all come and visit us then. We have 3 channels, as you can probably see behind me. We have Comcast channel 26, 27, and 30. So if you're a Comcast subscriber, you are able to receive our channels. 26 is the public station where anybody in Novato, a nonprofit, a resident, can come in and we will train you how to use the cameras, edit, voiceovers, scripting, the whole gamut. And it's really not that hard. What you just need to bring is an open mind and a willingness to learn. Channel 27 is our city channel, and so we broadcast all the city council meetings. And then channel 30 is the Novato Unified School District channel, where we air school board meetings and anything that students create, such as graduations last year, or virtual graduations, for instance. So in a nutshell, that's basically what we do. There's a whole lot more to it, but I want to if it's okay, Sita, I turn it over to Justin to share a little more, or what would you like?
Absolutely. Do it however you all want.
Justin works on the production side. He's only been here 3 months, but you think he's been here about 10 years because he's so good. I'm excited for him to say what he does on the production side.
Okay, thank you so much, Pam. My name is Justin Russell. I'm a television producer and programmer here at NCTV, Novato Community Television. I'm also a producer and station assistant, as well as a camera and editing instructor at the Community Media Center of Marin, otherwise known as Marin TV. And I'm just generally a videographer, a musician, an audio engineer, graphic designer, and a professional people person, which I think that you'll find is probably my most valuable skill. I've worked in community television for about 3 years now, but I've studied television production and film production for well over 10 years. I have two college degrees in broadcasting. I minored in both film and creative writing. I've worked on news programs, documentaries, music videos, short films, highlight reels, commercials, just about anything you can think of. As a programmer at NCTV, my primary responsibility is to manage the daily schedule of our community channel, or our public channel, Channel 26. I do a lot of work on our educational channel as well, monitoring the meetings of Novato Unified School District, making sure that Novato High, San Marin football games, baseball games are broadcasted on the weekends for parents to watch. And if a local creator or business is, I know that Pam basically gave an overview of what we do in a nutshell, but I would also add that if local creators or businesses and even educational organizations need assistance putting together productions for events, public service announcements, we're also here for that as well. And that has been my primary duty for the past few weeks, but that is in a gist what I do here at NCTV.
Real quickly, Sita, John De Leon was not able to make it today. He actually has a week off. We now and then need those once in a while. But he is literally my right-hand assistant before Justin came along. And so now and then I may refer to a comment that he provided.
Sure. Thank you. Pam, were you going to share something that he wrote up?
Oh, no, not necessarily right now.
Oh, sorry. We were waiting. Yeah.
No worries.
Well, I guess I could say that he is the director of technical operations. So it takes many hands here to manage the day-to-day operations of a TV station. It's not easy, and I can't do it alone. So I do most of the administrative side of the house, hiring staff, paying the bills, taking out the trash, supporting the board of directors. I report to a 9-member board of directors. John handles all the technical aspects of it. And believe me, there's something technical every single day to problem solve and troubleshoot. And I would say that's probably at least 50, if not 60% of his job.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I would add that one of the things I've learned entering the industry in this lane of public access is that there really is an abundance of positions in the field of television, especially with regard to the technical aspect of putting productions together. So yeah, that becoming a very vital process has been a big learning experience for me here at NCTV for sure.
And would you guys be able to speak on, so you guys are a nonprofit organization, I guess other, I don't know, like news outlets or TV stations are for profit, like how does that kind of, like what's the difference and how does that affect programming, I guess, if that makes sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. And that's why it takes a while to explain so much of what we do. And I'm glad I started by mentioning that we're a nonprofit, because if you live in the Bay Area, we have our main local stations are channel 2, 4, 5, and 7, ABC, CBS, to mention a couple. They're network broadcast television stations. As a community television station, all our revenue comes, 95% of our revenue comes from Comcast cable subscribers. So a percentage of anybody that has a cable subscription comes to us. And believe me, it's a very small amount. So we do rely on donations, volunteers, and memberships. So it isn't easy to thrive, but we're hanging in there. So I hope that helps define, and like public broadcasting, PBS relies a lot on donations primarily. So that's a little bit of difference. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Justin, or pretty much.
Yeah, I think for the most part, that's the gist of it. I would maybe add that, nope, I believe you spoke about that briefly. Yeah.
Comcast.
So, yeah, Comcast.
So it's a threat to us that when the subscriptions to Comcast go down,
right,
our revenue goes down each year, and we have to plan accordingly for that. So.
Yeah, and I did think of something. I was also thinking that we are regulated by the FCC, just like the other channels on television. So that's something that we do actually have in common.
And and I'm just gonna, ask some questions and kind of jump around between both of you. So like positions that are available within like this industry. I know Justin, you do scheduling productions. You're the executive director. So if a student is or a community member is like interested in like the various career fairs, career opportunities within this field, can you speak a little bit about the other opportunities outside of like productions and directing that you do? What other pathways or opportunities are available for like clients, community members and students?
Absolutely. As I mentioned before, one of the very first things I learned is the abundance of positions in the field of television production. When I first started at Marin TV, I worked producing city council meetings, but I very quickly was taking on social media projects. We had events that were coming up on a regular basis that we needed promotion for. And I was one of the only ones in the offices that kind of knew how to work Photoshop. So that very quickly becomes a position, especially at a station as small as the one we were running in San Rafael. I've worked personally with every city official in the county. That's another thing that you get to do. You get to meet a lot of very important people around here, the movers and shakers, the people that kind of make things happen in the county here. I've worked personally with Jared Huffman. I've got to meet Karen Bass. I was told early on that in this industry in and of itself is very competitive. And it is very competitive, but I, as a young one, thought that meant that there was a limited amount of things that I could do in this field. And that for me was extremely far from the truth. And when I first started, I wanted to be a writer. But if you told me back then that, 10 years in the future, I would be programming an entire channel and teaching people in my community how to shoot and edit their own films, it probably wouldn't be something I could fathom.
I think if you know how to story tell, you can go anywhere in life, because that entails getting from A to Z and making sense of it, making it something logical. And that could be a budget, that could be anything. I think it's unlimited what you can do by getting your feet wet here at a TV station. And being small as we are, you get to do, and you have to do everything, as Justin knows. So today I'm doing this, but tomorrow I'm gonna put my hat on and do human resources. And the next thing I put my hat on and plan a budget. So there's just so much to learn. It's unlimited. And that's something that I liked so much about this job, is that no day is the same. I'm not somebody I can't be a cookie cutter, have a cookie cutter type job. I need something that's every day very versatile. So, and if you can write, or you can learn to write here. Writing is so good. Emails, concise emails, getting the point across. You can take writing skills to any job. If you can communicate well, we deal with so many different diverse, requests and inquiries on a daily basis. And like Justin said, we work with a lot of dignitaries. So learning how to speak accordingly and appropriately to everyone equally is very important. So those set of skills you can take anywhere.
And just kind of staying with what you were talking about there, Pam, like, within your role, everything kind of changes like day to day, and you kind of like, the opportunity, you like things kind of switching up. Can you talk a little bit about your journey that you took to end up as the executive director of, Novato Television? Can you talk a little bit about that? And then Justin, you're next. Don't worry. We're never forgot about you. You're next.
I'm not sure if everybody's career is as linear, but mine certainly wasn't. It's definitely been a roller coaster ride. And then there's this a point that I have to make at the end of this. But well, first and foremost, I knew that communications was for me back in high school. My English teacher and my speech teacher both told me, you have some skills here. So I put 2 and 2 together and said, communications. So I got a degree in broadcast communications from San Francisco State University, as many of the people here at NCTV have. So I'm fortunate to have that, because that is essential, I believe, and that got me started. I did an internship. I could have graduated in 2 years, but I did a 1-year internship at KPIX Channel 5. It was very difficult to get in, and I'm very proud to have had that opportunity. I'm a real advocate of internships. And I got hired at Channel 5, so I thought my career was set. And then there was a mild recession back in, well, many years ago. And unfortunately, they had to lay off any new hires or part-timers, and one of them was me. So there I was in San Francisco, very young, no job. So I moved to Marin, and long story short, got into a radio station that now doesn't exist, but it was in Santa Fe. For anybody that's lived here more than 40 years, you'll know KTIM radio in Santa Fe. And that's where I started doing voiceovers. I got to do DJ work. I just always put myself in a position where I could keep my finger on the pulse of media, even if I had to do something that wasn't exactly media. I've worked at Petco. I've worked as a hostess at a restaurant, but I've always done something on the side to stay in the industry somehow.
Thank you.
Yeah, and for me, I was in high school as well. I remember, I have a vivid memory of being a freshman in high school, the first day of school, and the teacher turning on the morning announcements. And me sitting in my seat thinking, oh, the principal's going to talk about, the daily agenda again. And then she turned on the TV, and it was basically, what we were watching was basically a news program put together by students. And I remember sitting there, it was kind of like watching SNL, but it was put on by, freshmen and sophomore people in high school. And I was very invigorated by what I was watching. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh man, I have to get involved with this however I can. So I met the professor of the class. I remember the program. I went to school in the East Bay. I went to Deer Valley High School. The program was called ROP. I think it's a Regional Occupancy Program or Placement, something like that. And they had a television production class in high school. And I loved it so much that I just stuck with it. I studied it in college all the way until I became a sophomore in college. I was also going to San Francisco State University and taking a bunch of broadcast communication courses and living in Marin. At the time, I believe I was working in the mall. I hated my job, and I just kind of was walking down the street one day, and I saw that there was a television station there, and walked in immediately and said, hey, what do you guys do? How can I be involved? And that was sort of my introduction to public access. And it was very accessible to me, and it was all things that I had been studying in school. So my mind was already completely open to it. So it was an amazing resource for me. And that's sort of how I got my start in television production. Along a little further down the line, I learned that Novato had a community television station as well, and that they were looking for help in programming and production. And so I jumped on it immediately because that's how much I love it.
Thank you for sharing that. And just an FYI for the students on the call, we have an ROP program here with MCOE. So if anybody's interested, go ahead and reach out to Jesse Madsen. He can definitely connect you and support you with that. And also on top of that, College of Marin, we have a video production course and curriculum. And some of our students actually interned with you guys. So can you guys talk a little bit about, Pam was talking about internships, Justin, you were talking about ROP. Can you talk a little bit about the internship program that you guys have at NCTV?
Well, actually, I first met Sita when she was at the Marin County Office of Education, and she would send me these incredibly awesome students for years. And they were willing, and it's a program where I have them do everything. They have to do every single aspect of production and learn the whole gamut. So they could be filing papers one day. They could be helping me write checks. That's part of running the business. Got to get the bills done. Or they may be going out on a field shoot, or they may be helping, welcome dignitaries or other members into the studio, getting practice with customer service. We teach them basic editing, and I always have them do like a 30 or 60-second promo at the end of their internship, utilizing all the skills that they learned, so they walk away with something that they can show that they did, post it on their Facebook, and start their portfolio.
Yeah, and I can say that working as an intern is a very valuable experience for anybody that's actually considering it. I know that it can be a bummer to not, be compensated for your work, but it's the experience that was extremely valuable for me, and also learning. I found a mentor like immediately and learned as much as I could from them. So that's always the greatest thing about having an internship.
Yeah, and Justin and Pam, a question in the box. As many skills as you have now, how much did you learn in school versus how much did you learn on the job that you use now within this industry?
Ooh, Justin, you go ahead first. I have to think about that for a minute. It's been a while.
Sure. So I learned all of the basics that come with production. So that would be camera operation, video editing, pre-production, the sort of things that you need to know before you even put together a production. I learned all of those things in high school. Those were the very first things that I was taught. Also teamwork, the importance of teamwork was one of the very first things that I was taught as well. And some of the things that I learned sort of a little further down the line was one, sort of people skills is going to be a very valuable a skill for you, because you never know when you're going to meet people, and you never know how much people are going to like you. Because if people like you a lot, they're going to want to spend a lot of time around you. If you're somebody who's, I know for me, I was very apprehensive about meeting people, going in public and being personable with other people, but I had to sort of get over that. So that was something that I learned very early on. And also I'm someone who loves to learn. And so the second I sat down behind the computer and we had all these different types of softwares, that's another great thing about the public access stations here, and this station here in Novato Community Television and the Community Media Center of Marin, is we have all of these different workshops, all of these different softwares that you can come and immerse yourself in. So I sat down, and the first time that I could figure out the basics of Photoshop, I had to learn everything about it. But that's just me. That's the person I am. But the great thing about this field is it kind of brings that out of you.
I'm a lot like Justin. I learned rudimentary skills at San Francisco State. So two of the things I'm most proud of learning, and Justin will like this, is wrapping cables appropriately, the right way. Because you can always tell when a rookie who hasn't had that training, it's like, no, it's not how you wrap cables. And I'm very proud to have that skill, because that's what you may start out doing at any network or cable TV station, and it's important to do that right.
Yes.
Audio skills, Justin's gonna laugh at this, is that I actually started back when editing was not done on a computer, it was done with a razor blade. So I had headphones on like he has, and I had to literally take a razor blade and slice the tape and literally take a piece of tape and put it back together. I'll never forget that, because I have that memory, and if I can do that, then doing the digital stuff should be easy, right? So I'm proud to have those skills. But as far as being an executive director, there's no training for that really, other than if you do go get a degree in business administration, which I highly recommend anyway, because that's the basis and foundation for just any job, and it's a really good fallback to if media doesn't work out at the moment. You can use that degree for another position, but which I don't have and would always like to have, but encourage people to get. So I started this job learning everything on the fly.
Thank you. We had a question in the box, and I'm gonna get to that question. It's a pretty lengthy question. I'm gonna break it down, but before I ask you guys that question, but with COVID and everything, impacting different like workforce and industries, how's your industry been impacted by COVID, if at all?
Justin, could you speak to CMCM, and I'll talk about here at NCTV?
Absolutely. The major change, obviously, for producers in the influx of COVID would be sort of the sort of comeuppance of remote production, remote teaching, Zoom meetings, live streams, Twitch streams, people podcasting from home as opposed to in the studio. we started to see a lot of things like that occur during the pandemic. So it was kind of acquiescing, or excuse me, sort of accommodating those productions the best that we could. For me, I know now all of my workshops, all of my editing courses had to be taught online, which at first kind of provided some technical issues for my participants. So it was kind of a task to kind of work those things out. But once we got around them, it became sort of a fluid motion, the entire machine. And now we've gotten to a space where we're sort of working everything out. We're kind of ready to open back up at this point. I know we all are. But we're sort of transitioning into that stage. And so now that's becoming a big thing for us at CMCM. And I know for NCTV, live streams have also been a thing that we've sort of had to kind of get used to producing. A lot of people want to put on live productions right now. And so that's sort of been a big concern for us lately.
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing, actually, how quickly and easily we transitioned to doing everything remotely. I mean, I come into the office still about once a week because 95% of everything I do, I can do from home. This laptop, my iPhone. And it's been interesting to observe that we've been able to empower our members to do things on their own, which is what we do. We teach people how to produce their own shows. And several of them have, and we've updated our website. I should say John De Leon updated our website to enable people to submit programming that way. So they don't even have to, even after this pandemic is over and we open, people can come in, but they can certainly do it from home too. So, and that's one thing that John mentioned, I'm reading his note here, is that to encourage people to become really well versed in all aspects of remote learning and working from home. Some people love it, some people don't, but a hybrid of that I think is hopefully going to be a part of the future. And that he says that remote work is not only possible, but possibly here to stay. So yeah, everything. I can check phone messages from home. I literally can do. We all edit from home. We can all get into the server here, all thanks to John, and that's part of his technical operations job that's enabled us to be able to, thank goodness, transition so easily and smoothly.
Thank you. So I have a couple more questions, and then we're going to stop because we're at time. So I'm going to bundle these last two questions together. So do you need a degree in broadcast or journalism in order to enter into the workforce? And if you have experience, what advice would you give someone interested in pursuing, different opportunities within this industry? What advice could you give them if they have experience, maybe they don't have a degree? What's the best way someone can, what's the hack? That's what it is. What's the hack? What's the secret, cheat code, if you guys have any that you could share with us?
We do. Go ahead, Justin.
I would say for the first question, if you could kind of remind me of what it was, because I think it slipped me just that quickly.
Do you need a degree in order?
That's what it was.
An education in order to enter into the workforce?
Great question. Okay, so no, not necessarily. You don't actually need a degree at all to jump into this particular field or this profession. All you really need is a drive, and as Pam mentioned before, a will to learn. You need work ethic, obviously. But I would say that having that education and going for that education is definitely going to be helpful for you. And I'm someone who was never the greatest student up until I was almost out of college. But I would absolutely recommend that if you are going to jump into this field, that you go ahead and you take, if at the very least, take some classes at the local media center, get a little bit of education if you're not someone who doesn't want to go, if you're someone who doesn't want to go to college at all. But my suggestion is go to college, get your broadcasting degree, study everything you can about the field, because what you're going to see actually is that the people that you meet in school are going to be the people that sort of lift you up, even emotionally sometimes. But most of all, you're going to find that they're going to be just as hungry as you. You guys are going to be people that have the same sort of working mindset. And so that's always going to be very valuable for you. I know today, even I have people that I went to school with who hit me up and say, hey, I would love your help on this production. If we can figure this out, we can get funding. I would love to have you, I can put your name up in the credits. And that's something that's going to work for you. I today even still hit up old classmates from college and I say, hey, do you have anything that you've been shooting? We'd love to put it on the channel. And that always excites them to another level. And so that's probably the advice that I would give you, is networking is extremely important. Whenever you can, you want to be able to network. And one other tidbit of advice I would give you is that you are not always in control, and you should not let that ruin you. It's okay. This job can get very stressful, but if you find that if you love what you're doing, that's what's going to make it all worth it. And so even as a producer, you'll find you don't have control over all of the little working parts of a production. And the important part is that you don't let that drive you crazy.
Yeah, you definitely have to have a passion for this field. And once you have it, it doesn't feel like a job. So you either have the passion for you or you don't. I'll keep it short because I know we're running behind, but I would say you don't necessarily need a degree. I would encourage a degree today for any job you want to go in. And because media is such a evolving, uncertain industry, I just think it's always good to have that. But we do teach many classes here, at both CMCM and at NCTV, so you can take advantage of that. But you know what, come here and bring your talent. If you like bookkeeping, you know, if you're really good on the phone, and a lot of people are, if you're good with fundraising or marketing, you bring your talent here, and then once you're here, you can learn it all along the way. And people discover things they didn't know that they would like. Some people are very intimidated by looking at these computers and the technology here, but you sit down to edit and more people find they like editing that we never thought they would ever consider that. So to sum it all up, I would say do volunteer work, because that gives you an opportunity to see, you know, get experience in a small company, a large company, corporate company. That's the very best way to really get your foot in the door of different companies and see the culture that you like. And then do internships. I can't emphasize that enough. If you are in school, get recommendations from your teachers. I did that. I got a couple of recommendations from my teachers in high school, and use that for jobs later on, even internships as well. So stay true to your dreams and listen to your heart and your gut.
Yes.
Well, thank you both of you for taking time to talk with everybody here at the end of the day. Definitely appreciate it. It might be the end of our day, but in the beginning yours. But
Right. Hey, Alex, I want to put a quick just thank you to Pam and Justin, just as a NCTV board member. I want to say what a wonderful organization NCTV is, and the service that you provide the community is amazing. And I'm so proud to be a part of the organization. So thank you.
Thank you, Sita. Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Yes.
Thank you. You guys are welcome to stay on the webinar, but we're gonna transition over to Jessica at Cal Maritime. And Jessica, you know, it's floor is yours. You know, feel free to talk about Cal Maritime, your journey, anything you want to talk about. It's your world. So I'll let you take it away.
Thank you for that. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica. As mentioned, I work at Cal Maritime, which is actually across the North Bay in Vallejo, California, so right off of 37 and in Highway 80. And I'm in a unique position where I can actually talk about two different industries. So I'm an admissions counselor, which means it's my job to talk about Cal Maritime and all of our programs and what you can do with our education, because we're a Cal State. And also, I can also talk about being an admissions counselor. I'm also responsible for reviewing applications, processing transcripts, AP scores, you know, all the fun stuff that happens on the back end of throughout the entire application process, you know, from the application to getting decisions out, arguing to get confetti into our acceptance letters, to actually bringing a student onto campus for orientation that first day and handing them over to their academic support team. But in addition to being an admissions counselor, I'm also an alumna of Cal Maritime. So I, you know, kind of as a young adult, grew up in the maritime industry, and I was surrounded by the maritime world. And on the higher education side, so the admission side, I do just want to note that there's a lot of jobs in higher education. You know, for example, working at community colleges, or working at large universities, or working for independent organizations that support students going through these programs. There's a lot of jobs out there where if you're somebody who likes to help people people, higher education is a great opportunity for that. You can help in, for example, being a residence life coordinator or variants of those job titles, where you help the student have a good living experience. You help, try to make sure there's activities or cool furniture or things like that, or bringing support services like tutoring or mental health or, group meetings to a living area versus a different part of campus. There's working in academic advising. You could work, in recruiting, especially if you're somebody who wants to get paid to talk. A lot of recent college graduates will actually go into recruiting to help them pay for their graduate school, which is the next step after your bachelor's degree. So that's kind of a win-win situation. But I do want to talk about the maritime industry because I'm really passionate about it. It's my job to be, but also I think a lot of people have been maybe noticing the maritime industry, and more specifically the supply chain, because that large container ship that was in the news recently, the Ever Given, it's actually owned by a company called Evergreen. So if you thought it was called the Evergreen, most companies have their names on the side of the vessel, and then on the back of the vessel in much smaller writing is actually the name of the ship. So it was the Evergreen's Ever Given. And so a lot of people were paying attention. They're like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot that ships were a thing, and I forgot that was a job opportunity. And it is. So at Cal Maritime over here in Vallejo, what we teach is a well-rounded education where it's general education like English and math and humanities. These are all very important things, but also we teach hands-on learning, more specifically how to drive ships, how to drive tugboats or ferries or container ships, bulk carriers, all the cruise ships, and then also how to maintain their power generation systems and their propulsion systems. So engineering. On the shore side of things, we actually do have a business administration program, as Pam mentioned earlier. It's a great kind of general degree. We offer 2 concentrations, meaning 2 areas that you can kind of specialize in that tie into the maritime industry. About 90% of the world's goods travel on the water at some point in its life before it gets to you as the consumer. And so the maritime industry is a really a key component of getting your getting goods around the world, even if it's just the raw materials that have been mined before they become fancy electronics or anything like that. The cotton or the dyes for clothing, everything can be put on a ship. Even cars, a lot of cars are shipped, and for sometimes smaller journeys, they have safe ways to actually ship livestock too, and I do emphasize safe ways. So on the shore side of it, we teach a concentration in that process, literally coordinating how to get something from point A all the way to the end point where you purchase it. That's called the supply chain. So for example, that ship that was stuck, the Ever Given, all the containers that were on there, they were delayed, and they're still being delayed because the authority that oversees the Suez Canal has not released it. It's still a part of an active investigation. So those goods are kind of still being held in lockup. But then you had all those ships that were waiting. All those goods are backed up. And so that the repercussions, the economic repercussions of that incident are still, some of them haven't even been felt yet because it's just kind of a domino effect. But there's a lot of people around the world who are responsible for coordinating that, for making sure a ship gets somewhere on time. Or if a situation like this arises, they plan for a contingency. They are like, okay, what are we going to do? How do we get, how do we make up that time? How do we try to make up that loss of money? Then there's also people on there's people on the purchasing side. There's people in terms of security, making sure that the goods that are on the boat are supposed to be there. That container A doesn't actually get onto container B and go in the opposite direction. For the security side, I do want to note Global Studies in Maritime Affairs is a very unique program that we offer. It's actually the only one of its kind in the United States, and it's a specialization in the security industry of the the security side of the maritime industry. So I don't know if any of you ever saw that movie Captain Phillips, but there are task force all around the world that deal with current piracy and security issues. And so Global Studies and Maritime Affairs covers that, but it also covers the lawmaking side of it. So the policy side of maritime trade and transportation. So the investigation that's happening with the Ever Given, Global Studies and Maritime Affairs students prepare for that in terms of saying, if this happens, what are we looking for? Who are we supposed to be blaming? What types of fines should we be imposing and things like that? I do want to give a big shout out because we have a brand new major. It's called Oceanography, and we're so excited about it. It's our second year. It kind of makes sense. We are a ship, or we're a campus of the Cal State that's all about the water, not just ships, but it's about the water. It's about shoreside, the shoreline and the economics that happens there. So it makes sense. We should study the thing that is, keeping our entire industry afloat. So our oceanography program studies the chemical and the physical makeup of the ocean, as well as all of the ocean dwelling species and ocean dependent species that are on land, depend on, fishing and things like that, and the effects of climate change, on those groups. It's a shameless plug because it's my job, but if you are a senior or if you're currently a community college student, applications are open until May 15th for fall 2021 for all of our majors, except for learning how to drive the ship. Marine transportation, we're the only place west of Texas, where you can get a bachelor's degree to learn how to drive a ship. So it's very popular and that filled up. But all of our engineering majors, including mechanical engineering, business, global studies, and oceanography, they're still open. So just saying, but there are jobs all in all different types along the maritime industry. We have, alums who sail on the navigation side, where they are now captains of massive bulk carriers that carry like grain or oil or flour, or cruise ships. I don't know if you have Instagram or TikTok, a good person to follow just to get an idea of what life is like at sea is actually one of our most famous alumna. She's been in Cosmo magazine. She's been on US Good Morning America, all these different ones. And her name is Captain Kate McHugh. She is just a fantastic personality. She's so warm and open, and she answers all these questions about what it's like to sail, what it's like to drive large vessels. And then we also have alums who sail smaller vessels like tugboats. They are actually, in terms of the power ratio to the size of the vessel, tugboats are incredibly powerful. And they need to be, because they help maneuver ships in and out of tight spaces, kind of like getting a car to roll sideways into a parallel parking spot, except on the water. So there's alums who work, long hauls where they're out to sea for 3 or 4 months on end. And then there are folks who work on like the San Francisco Bay Ferry. They get to go home at night. They sometimes get their weekends might be an actual weekend, or it might be Monday, Tuesday. So there's all different types of schedules in the maritime industry as well. It's not all deep sea. It's not all, months and months and months on end. Same thing for, the engineering side. It's similar schedules. With business, we actually have some alums who work down at the water, and they work security at like Port of Oakland, Port of Long Beach, Port of LA, Port Hueneme, which is in Ventura, and it's actually the largest import port for cars coming into the West Coast. But they work graveyard shift. Most students who go to get a business degree don't ever expect to work graveyard, but because ships are coming in at all times, there's, we have graduates who are working down at the ports on those unusual hours as well. What I would probably say about, getting into the maritime industry, you don't necessarily have to have a bachelor's degree to go work on ships. But the benefit of going to a maritime academy, which is what we are, there's us, one in Texas, and then a few in the northeastern seaboard. The benefit of going to a maritime academy to get your bachelor's degree with your license to work on a vessel is that you get a well-rounded education to go with it. You get the backing of a university, which means an alumni pool. So, the presenters before me were talking about how important networking is and finding mentors. Being a part of an institution helps you along the way. And then also we get you out in 4 years. Whereas if you go through what's called the Haessly pipe, it's a little bit of sea term for you. working your way up, getting the seat time, getting the experience, getting the licensing, and not having anyone kind of really tell you how to do it can take a long time, and it's a huge struggle. So the majority of people going into the maritime industry who want to have responsibility on a ship, meaning they want to be an officer on a ship, they go through the maritime academies. So that's kind of my plug about jobs. And so I'd love to open it up to any questions in the chat about both higher education, because like I said, I'm a big fan of working at my alma mater and you know, working in higher ed, but also about just job opportunities in the maritime industry.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, go ahead, Jessica.
okay, I'm sorry. I'm really well versed in my job has like 5-10 different hats. One of them is event planner. So I'm like, I've got one eye down on that chat, and I saw that question come in about what does my day-to-day look like? And I think it's a great question. I'm going to answer it in two parts. I'm going to answer it what my day-to-day looks like, and just for a plug for the maritime industry, I'll talk about what a mariner looks like. So for me as an admissions counselor, usually it goes through cycles because most applications have a certain window. So for example, the Cal State, so you guys have heard, you know, there's Sonoma State, there's Sac State, Cal State, East Bay. I can actually name all 23. I'm not going to do it though. And I can name them by location and date that they joined. Most admissions counselors, you know, around October, November, a lot of it is outreach. September through November is outreach, just trying to get people to hear about the university and then to apply. So things like college fairs, in-person college fairs. I never thought that I would miss a cookie and a potato chip display at a college fair, but I am, because I just want to get back out there. And then there's visiting schools, visiting community colleges during business hours to do presentations or to do one-on-one counseling opportunities. There's lots of calling campaigns, texting campaigns. Now we're doing lots of like Instagram Live, Facebook Live, you know, TikTok, you know, just trying to get on, just reach people as much as possible. And then kind of an overlap in November to about January is the actual evaluation. And so that is just, most institutions don't use paper applications anymore. Like they don't even print them out on their end. So it's just a lot of sitting in front of a computer all day, going back and forth between reading a student's application, saying, do they meet all the requirements? If not, a large part of it is saying, okay, what can we do to help them meet the requirements? Instead of just saying, no, they're denied immediately. Like a lot of admissions counselors go through so many loopholes and trying to jump through hoops, trying to help you find exceptions or waivers or something to get you into the institution. And then, you know, handling all those incoming emails with questions or sending out emails like, hey, I'm missing your transcript. And for the record, if an institution is emailing you for a transcript, we really want it. So please, you know, please respond, because I have a lot of applications that are just sitting in this like hold pattern because they won't send me their transcript. And so it's a lot of like back and forth. I know during this time, I will say, I used to be in office. So I would break up the day by greeting my campus tours of the day, hanging out with my, saying hi to all of my student workers, you know, maybe going for a lunch walk. But I will say since the pandemic hit, I found myself, you know, there's a lot of Zoom meetings, but I would, instead of doing a lunch walk, I would, just kind of play with my dogs, play lots of fetch, and I started picking up lots of plants. And so I don't talk to my student workers as much anymore, but I have named all of my plants after my student workers, so I still feel like they're here. And then you move into spring. Spring is probably one of my favorite times of the application process. And I know a lot of students don't realize what happens behind the scenes in terms of planning and you know, writing communications and putting out social media posts, but the whole spring process is kind of like a sales time where we are trying to, each university, every admissions office is trying to do what we can to convince you to choose us. So it becomes about doing fun events like planning open houses or in-person, you know, meetups with like local areas. So like all the admitted students from LA, we put together a little group for like a little activity for them, a meet and greet, or doing, like I said, the texting campaigns or the phone campaigns, or doing these panels, just trying to do as much engagement as possible, trying to do, like I said, get students to pick me, and it's really high energy. At the same time, we're still processing late applications if those are coming in. We're still answering tons of emails. So I'd say spring is probably my most active time, where I'm in and out of the office, just constantly, on my phone. And then also the summer, it's because most students by May 1st, which is a national decision deadline, most students have committed to their university for the fall. So summer, we're still doing events to stay engaged, but we're not dealing with 800 people. We're dealing with a much smaller, solid incoming class. And then in September, the whole thing starts all over again. So it's kind of a big cycle. On the Mariner side, someone who is, working in the deck or engine, if they're working on a ship, if they're out to sea, they have what's called watch. So it's like their shift, but it's called watch in the maritime industry. So it can be anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. It's usually going to be closer to 8. And so for that shift, they are, if they're up on the bridge, they are, they're steering the ship. And some days it might be mellow. They might be out in the middle of the ocean. Not too much trouble you could get into, or they might be pulling in a port where it's a little more tense. They want to make sure that they don't hit anything. They want to make sure that all the little vessels crossing in front of them get out of the way. Same thing down in the engine room, making sure that all the propulsion systems are good, making sure all the power generation systems and the generators are up and good. What's kind of unique though about sailing, so deck side and engine, they both sail, is that when they're not on the ship, and so they might be on that ship for anywhere from 2 to 4 months, they're home, they're on vacation. And so it's 2 months of straight vacation where they don't have to go into the office, they don't have to go in, do anything. So I know a lot of mariners, when they come home for vacation, they go camping, they do road trips, they do all this stuff, because they've been kind of cooped up on a ship for a few months. And then by the time those 2 months are up, they're like, okay, I'm itching to get back out to sea. I want to go back and travel. On shore, so let's just go back to, let's say, Port of Stockton. Okay, we've got Port of Stockton, Port of Sacramento up there. We've got a business graduate who's a ship agent. A ship agent is somebody who is responsible for an incoming ship. So they're responsible for making sure the incoming ship is going to get all the fuel they need. That's called bunkering. If the captain has called ahead and said, I want gummy bears, I am craving gummy bears, the ship agent is going to make sure that captain has their gummy bears, along with all the other stores that need to be loaded. So all the food, laundry detergent, all that stuff. They're also the ones responsible for saying, hey, ship A is going to be here from midnight to, let's say, 1 p.m. And then we've got a 2-hour window. Get them out, get the tugboats in, because the next ship is coming in. So it's a lot of coordinating. It's a lot of working with other departments. So some days, they might be out there coordinating and supervising the ship come in. Then they go back to their office, answering tons of emails, doing, coordinating the logistics, and then go back out when that ship is leaving to supervise it. And then on the security side, I actually had a great opportunity to take some of my students a few years ago to the Port of Long Beach, and we got a really in-depth tour, and from a Global Studies and Maritime Affairs alum who was working for the Port of Long Beach, and they work in the security side. And so their job is to do security kind of safety rounds. They were security and safety. And so what they were looking for is making sure that all the employees were wearing appropriate high visibility vests, because, there's lots of big equipment and cranes and such. Everyone's supposed to have helmets on. They were checking the trucks coming in and out of the port, making sure that they all had their loads appropriately, or they were lined up. Nobody was, because smoking is a big no-no in a lot of places where there's fuel and stuff like that. They were keeping an eye out for that, and so they would do around, I think it was like every few hours. And so they usually had a golf cart or a company issued vehicle to do it, because ports are so big. Or if they had a smaller kind of area that they were responsible for, they do it on foot and just get their steps in. So the day-to-day is going to vary, in terms of how much you're in the office versus how much you're, out and about. But what's great is that because there is such a variety of jobs in the maritime industry, some that are like right down on the water, and some that are water adjacent, so they're close by and you see the water from your office, but you never actually get down to the port. Whichever suits you better works. So we have some students where they enjoy the air conditioning a lot more, and so they'd rather stay in the office. And so there are job opportunities for them there, like working in human resources or accounting of that, of that company. And then we have some students where they like being in the action. They like feeling that sense of like anticipation as a ship is pulling in, especially if they know people who are on that vessel, being able to say hello. And they might want to be boots on the ground. And so there's that you have that ability to kind of work in the type of job description that's going to suit you. But what's also great about being both a Maritime Academy and a CSU. First of all, we're on Cal State Apply, which means it's really easy to apply. But also, you graduate with a bachelor's degree, which means you're receiving a very well-rounded education, but you're qualified for a lot of different jobs. So for students that do sail down the line, there's a variety of reasons why folks might not want to sail after a certain time. Maybe they started a family, or maybe they, on an extremely rare occasion, maybe they suffered an injury, which prevents them from doing their job out at sea. Because unfortunately, working on vessels is extremely physical. There's lots of climbing ladders, and they're not like cruise ships. Cruise ships can be very accommodating, but a container ship isn't necessarily. So a physical injury might prevent them from sailing anymore. Actually, it wasn't a Cal Maritime alum, but there was an alum from another Maritime Academy who I met in my travels, and he had an accident snowboarding. He hit his head extremely hard and he lost his sight. And you can't drive a ship if you cannot see. And so his knowledge of operating a vessel, his knowledge of how the ports worked, enabled him actually to get a job in the maritime industry in the port, working on the support side of things, because he had all that knowledge up here. It didn't matter that he couldn't see, accommodations could be made. So the bachelor's degree coupled with the experience allows you to transition shoreside if you need to, or if you want to down the line. I know that internships were mentioned earlier, and I just want to second it, how important internships really can be. We take it so seriously that we actually require every single one of our students complete an internship. So every single major, business, engineering, oceanography, doesn't matter. Every single student completes at least 1 2-month internship. So you're getting at least 2 months of work experience to add to your resume when you graduate. And for a lot of students, this is crucial in helping them identify what type of jobs they either want to look for, or, if they didn't like their internship, if they were like, that's not what I thought it was going to be, it also helps them avoid those types. So they're not wasting their time looking for internships that don't matter. So that's kind of my whole spiel. I am going to drop our admissions link in the chat, just because I get paid to recruit. So because I know we're approaching the end of our time. And then also, just for fun, I'm going to include my email in the chat in case anyone is curious about applying or wants any further information about the jobs in the maritime industry.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. If you could put your information in the chat, that'd be great. Do you have any activities coming up, like virtual open houses, anything? I know you guys aren't in person. If a potential applicant or student is interested in the program, what's the best way for them to get connected?
Yeah, so we're actually running a virtual open house right now, and so I'll put the link for that in the chat as well. But it's csum.edu/CMD, as in Cal Maritime Day. Since it's virtual, we stretched our whole day into a week. We've had a number of sessions so far since Saturday, but they were all recorded, so you can go through if there was a particular major that caught your interest. You can go through and view the recording. At 5:30, we're actually starting one about like our student life. At 7 o'clock tonight, we have our mechanical engineering session. 4 o'clock tomorrow, we've got our business session. I went to Cal Maritime for business, so I'm incredibly biased. Don't tell my boss. And then we also have our engineering technology session tomorrow at 7, which is, really high yield in terms of job opportunities. So I'll put all those opportunities, I'll put the links for that into the chat. But we also are offering, we do one-on-one counseling, and every Cal State offers, they call it something different, but basically it's a chance to hear a quick presentation about the institution, how to get in, what majors they offer, cost, of course, all of that. But you're interacting with a counselor. So you're interacting with somebody who's really going to be able to put you in touch with all the departments and resources that you need.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. And I just put that that link in the chat for you for the Cal Maritime Day. So, but yeah, no, so that we're at time. Thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your day to talk with the students and the community members. Sita, do you want to close us off?
Yes, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming, especially our speakers, for taking time at the end of a long day to talk to all of our participants. And thank you to all the participants for showing up as well. And that we did have one question in the chat for NCTV. And so if Pam and Justin can hang on for a minute, then and they want to answer it in the chat, they can. If not, that's fine. We'll follow up in another way. But thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Pam. And everybody have a really good night. And I'm going to stop the recording now, but I'm going to hang on for a while.